Charlie, a 12-year-old boy, was about to lose his sight due to cancer. To prevent the spread of cancer cells, he needed to undergo surgery to remove both eyes within 6 hours. Otherwise, his condition would become life-threatening. Before he became blind, Charlie wished to fulfill 3 final desires. When the doctors learned about his situation, they decided to help him. His first wish was to see the girl he liked one last time. He had a crush on her, and Morgan encouraged him to express his feelings. Gathering his courage, Charlie prepared to confess, but at the critical moment, he lost his nerve and chickened out. For his second wish, Charlie wanted to race a car. After all, he would never have the chance to drive again. Then came his last wish, but he was too shy to say it out loud. Morgan understood instantly and took him to a special place. However, the bouncer at the entrance refused to let minors in even after Morgan offered to pay double and explain Charlie's tragic situation. Rules were rules, and the bouncer remained firm in his decision. As time ran out, Charlie had to return to the hospital for surgery. However, he refused to go until his last wish was fulfilled. At that moment, Claire, another doctor, stepped in. Enough is enough, she told him. You can't pack a lifetime of things you're going to miss into one day. Your situation sucks and it's unfair, but you know what? Life sucks and it's unfair, and things end before we're ready. Disappointed, Charlie returned to the hospital. He stopped thinking about his wishes. He only wanted to take one last look at his parents and engrave their faces into his memory forever. Seeing his heartbreak, Morgan was deeply moved. She asked the male doctor to leave the room. Then she closed the curtain and turned to face Charlie. As Charlie was wheeled into the operating room, he wore a faint smile as if his wish had finally been granted. His expression remained unfinished, leaving us to wonder what exactly was his last wish. I don't know either, but whatever it was, it must have been the most beautiful thing he had ever seen in his life. A young boy named Abe looked out the window. A bunch of children were happily playing with snowballs. Because Abe had asthma, his mother did not allow him to go outside and play. Disappointed, he could only stay inside and play video games. Suddenly, the power went out and all he could see was the children outside. He grabbed his skates and hockey stick to meet them, but he was too late. They were going inside, but he still went to play on the pond anyway. He began to gasp for air as he had forgotten his inhaler inside. The ice suddenly cracked. Abe fell into the lake. He struggled desperately in the water. A turtle crawled over and covered him. Coincidentally, an old man nearby was collecting turtles. He noticed Abe under the ice. The man was startled and immediately called 911. The nearest ambulance received the order and rushed to the scene. However, the ice was too thick. They did not have any ice-breaking tools on hand. Helpless, they used a laryngoscope from the ambulance as an ice pick. They tied a bedsheet around TK and he crawled toward Abe little by little. But by then, Abe had already stopped moving. TK began smashing the ice frantically with the laryngoscope. Without proper tools, the rescue became extremely difficult. With his relentless efforts, the ice was finally broken open. Just as he was about to pull Abe up, the ice beneath him suddenly gave way. TK also fell into the water. The team on shore immediately pulled with all their strength. Both of them were successfully pulled up, but by then Abe had stopped breathing. They quickly performed CPR on him. Then they inserted an arterial line into the boy. Next, they connected him to an extracorporeal membrane oxygenation machine to take over his heart and lungs. Oxygen started flowing into his blood. His body temperature began to rise. A few minutes later, Abe's heartbeat finally returned. He coughed up the icy water. Seeing that Abe was out of danger, everyone in the ambulance breathed a sigh of relief. A laundromat suddenly caught fire. Firefighters quickly arrived at the scene. An employee rushed over, saying that her manager was still trapped inside. He told the firefighters that the fire was caused by a dryer explosion. They immediately geared up, opened the door, and went into rescue. After entering, they searched for the victim's location. They successfully found him in the storage room. The fire was growing bigger. At that moment, Captain Casey noticed that a dryer was still running. He had a bad feeling about it. Suddenly, the dryer exploded, and Casey was thrown to the ground. They quickly helped Casey outside. Luckily, he only had minor injuries. Other team members dragged in hoses and started firefighting. Soon, the flames were completely extinguished. The manager was successfully rescued. However, things were not over yet. The next day, they received another fire alarm, but on the way, an accident happened. The fire truck lost control and almost hit pedestrians on the roadside. Luckily, the driver braked in time, preventing a disaster. Since the fire truck broke down, they had to grab their gear and walk to the fire scene. The fire was just ahead of them. By the time they arrived, the flames had already been put out by another team. But what shocked everyone, it was another laundromat. And the cause was exactly the same as before. They checked records and found out that 5 laundromats had caught fire this week. But after investigation, it wasn't due to dryer malfunctions. To find the real cause, they searched for clues at the fire scene. They opened up a burned machine and found its coil was intact. This proved proved the dryer wasn't the problem. It looked more like the clothes caught fire and burned the machine. After talking to the staff, they learned that a batch of cheap detergent had recently arrived. Kelly took some and sniffed it. He immediately noticed something was wrong. The detergent likely contained flammable substances. Since it didn't dissolve properly in water, residue stayed on clothes, which then ignited in the dryer, causing an explosion. They quickly found the manufacturer and told the person in charge, "Marcy, your detergent has been contaminated." But Marcy insisted their products met the standards. Seeing that Marcy refused to admit it, Kelly poured some detergent on the ground, lit a match, and threw it on top. Instantly, flames erupted. Faced with the truth, Marcy finally admitted that they had recently switched chemical suppliers. Since their detergent was mainly sold to laundromats, they had to warn all customers immediately. After investigation, it turned out that the supplier had mixed methanol into the detergent. They quickly notified all buyers, but one delivery truck was still on the road, and its destination was right next to the fire station. Upon receiving the news, they rushed over. By the time they arrived, the truck was already smoking heavily. Firefighters told the driver to evacuate immediately, but the driver thought it was just an exhaust pipe issue. He had assumed the truck was only carrying detergent, but it was actually a moving bomb. By then, the cargo area was already on fire. They quickly dispatched a fire truck and got the foam extinguishers ready. Kelly opened the truck's door, while the others sprayed foam inside. Within moments, the fire was completely extinguished. The detergent crisis was finally over. If it hadn't been discovered in time, who knows how many people would have been in danger. The firefighters were rescuing people on the rooftop, but suddenly, just moments ago, a severe fire broke out in the building. A mother informed Chief Bowden that her son was on the third floor. Captain Casey immediately arranged a rescue plan. The firefighters had just finished preparing their equipment. When they spotted a boy on the rooftop, he was most likely the woman's child. They quickly raised the aerial ladder to rescue him. At this moment, the mother was extremely worried. When the firefighters arrived on the rooftop, they saw the boy standing in the corner, too scared to move. The firefighters told him not to panic, that they would come and save him right away. Then they slowly walked towards him. But suddenly the roof collapsed. Gallo and Stella fell to the fourth floor. Seeing this, the chief immediately sent other team members to assist. Luckily, both of them were fine, but flames surrounded them from all sides. The teammates heard their cries for help. After locating their position by sound, they picked up hammers and started smashing the walls. Meanwhile, the other firefighters on the rooftop sped up their rescue efforts. After all, the fire was growing stronger, and another collapse could happen at any moment. Casey attached a rope to himself and crawled along the side of the roof toward the boy. The people below saw this and couldn't help but worrying for him. At this moment, Casey ignored his own safety and rushed to the boy's side. He told the boy to hold on tightly, then took a deep breath and jumped off. After drawing an arc in the air, he landed safely among his teammate. Everyone smiled and gasped. McCollum told him nice swing, and Casey replied nice catch. Meanwhile, the firefighters on the fourth floor successfully broke through the wall and rescued the two trapped inside.
A routine medical checkup, but it left the doctor stunned in place. A vegetative patient who had been unconscious for 5 years was unexpectedly pregnant, and the fetus was already over 3 months in size.
Call the police. This woman is pregnant.
Soon the test result also confirmed the doctor's suspicions that someone had secretly assaulted the girl. But when the doctor informed the girl's parents and suggested terminating the pregnancy promptly, the father unexpectedly refused outright.
We want to keep the baby.
Leaving the doctor baffled. This clearly contradicted the girl's wish. Why did the girl's parents insist on keeping the child? Even the mother felt helpless, although they found it difficult to accept their daughter's ordeal. But from another perspective, wasn't this child also a part of their daughter's life? They had been without their daughter for too long, even though another doctor kept emphasizing that due to the girl's vegetative state for 5 years, her physical condition would hardly sustain a full-term pregnancy. There was a high likelihood of pulmonary embolism, septicemia, intestinal obstruction, and respiratory failure, any of which could potentially claim her life.
But those are just risks.
Despite the doctor's explanations, the parents insisted on their decision to let their daughter give birth to the child.
If she dies giving birth, maybe that's a merciful outcome.
With that, they paid no further attention to the doctors, insisting on transferring their daughter to another hospital.